My name is John Burris, and thank you for watching this short video. This video is called Fascia and Aging Part 3. Athletes do not age very well. In this video, I hope to share some insights for you and some leading edge information about perhaps how to take care of your body better than we're doing. I'll be exploring the role of fascia in aging, how sports and fitness will deteriorate the body and cause you to age much quicker. And I'll show you some of the dynamics of how to have a healthier body and how to repair a lot of damage along the way. So the issue is this. It's not a secret. We all know this, but no one will say it. It's like we're all been poisoned in our mind to not say it. For example, you'll go to an airport and you'll see a former athlete and you'll go, whoa, what happened to you? They're limping, they're on crutches maybe, they've got all kinds of health issues, and you're going, wow, they didn't age very well. Or you'll see a former athlete on television and you're going, wow. Or I like to hear stories sometimes on sports networks. They'll do a recap of a championship team perhaps 40 years later. So 40 years after winning a basketball, football, baseball championship, the old guys get together, talk about the glory days, but you know what else they talk about? How horrible they feel. All their surgeries, all their back surgeries, and knee replacements, and hip replacements, and all the medications they're on. That's what they talk about. So sports and athletics and fitness will deteriorate the body, and we all know it, but no one will say it. It's almost like the story of the emperor with no clothes. Everybody knows the emperor's not wearing any clothes, but no one's willing to say it. Well, we all know that athletes don't age very well, but no one's willing to say it. So here I'm saying it. Most athletes do not age very well at all. Now, there are a few exceptions, but overall, most athletes have a hard time aging because of sports and fitness and all the trauma stored in their body. So a little bit about my background. The first half of my life, I was an athlete. I played football, basketball, baseball, tennis, racquetball, lifted weights every day, went to the gym, did aerobics, ran, cycled, swam. And I guarantee you, right out of high school, I was a cripple. I could not move. My hips hurt, my knees were blowing out, my shins were blowing out, I had pinched nerves in my neck. I was a mess, but I kept doing it. More fitness, more training, more hardness, until finally sciatica hit. And then it became 35 years of sciatica on top of all the feet pain and neck pain and head pain. But I kept doing it because that's all I knew. About halfway through my life, I decided to change. I did a lot of massages. I got a lot of body work, fascia body work, and I started to join the yoga world. More stretching, more flexibility, more energizing my body. In a way, more stripping away the old injuries that has been stored in my body. And that's made all the difference in the world. So the last 30 years or so, I've been involved in repairing the damage the first 30 years caused and undoing all the trauma in my body. And it does work. And I'll tell you, from being a body worker for 40 years now, I've probably had 20,000 sessions. When somebody's on my bodywork table, the athletes are not the healthiest. In fact, some of the worst bodies I work on are athletes. Athletes, current athletes, and former athletes. And they're not healthy. Their bodies are deteriorating. Or I'll work on people who will say, well, yeah, I played tennis or football or basketball in high school, but that was 30 years ago. But why do I feel so tired now and so sore and achy? Because all that trauma is still in your body. So sports and fitness and don't do well for the body at all. And they deteriorate the body. And athletes do not age very well at all. So a little refresher course, a lot of this applies to the fascia in the body. Once again, fascia is the largest organ in the body. It's a connective tissue that binds everything together, and most medical doctors don't know very much about it. In fact, very few yoga teachers know much about it. Very few massage therapists know much about it. I've been working with it for decades now. I can tell you a lot more than most people can, and there's a lot of these videos will show you that. So fascia is what happens when people get injured. The fascia hardens, tightens, and it grips together and binds together and it glues together, and those injuries don't go away and they stick with you. So you can think about fascia as, let's say there's an orange. The orange would be the white stuff in the orange. where the orange stuff would be the muscle. So the white stuff in the orange is the fascia in the body. And here's the picture of that orange. As you can see, we open up the orange. All the white stuff in the orange would be the fascia in the body. It binds everything together, and it holds everything together. So when you're injured or you have a lot of fitness training, hard muscle, the fascia will dry out and fuse together, and you end up with dried, hard tissue. And that's how most athletes age. And here's a piece of meat, for example. If you look at all the white stuff, that would be the fascia in the body. It's not just the big pieces, it's the small little pieces too. And like I said, when the fascia is damaged because of injuries or muscle building or all that pounding from fitness and sport, the fascia will dry out and harden and shrink. And that's how most athletes experience their body as they get older. Fascia will run throughout the entire body, from the tips of your toes to the top of your head, inside and out. It's multi-layered as the body is layered. And once again, in fitness training and sports, the fascia is damaged and it's glued together and it hardens. I've worked on athletes and I work on their shin, for example. And they go, oh, you're touching a bone. I go, oh, that's not a bone. Those used to be muscle and fascia tissue. They're fused together and they're so hard, they're petrified now. And they feel like a bone, but they're not bone at all. They're petrified tissue that's glued together. So there's this notion in our culture that a hard body is a healthy body. That is absolutely false. A hard body is a dead, dying, decaying body. And that's what sports are doing to athletes. Because there's so much weight training, so much emphasis on strength training. A hard body will break, for example. That's why there's so many injuries in sports. They get injured all the time because hard tissue snaps, it cracks, it tears. Where if the body were soft, for example, if more athletes did more yoga, more stretching, more flexibility work, more massage therapy, or more body work, they wouldn't tear, they wouldn't break, they would bounce and they would be flexible. Yet I find there's so much strength training in the sport, fitness world, bodies tend to tear and snap because their fascia is so hard and so tight. So the notion here, a hard body is not a healthy body. So once again, a hard body is a dried out, fused together body, and that's what most athletes are creating, a dried out, fused together body because their fascia becomes so hard and tight. And here's a picture of what most people believe health looks like. Unfortunately, they're quite mistaken. This person might have more and more complications as they age, as their hard, dried out fascia becomes problematic as they get older. So hardness does not equal health. And here's another picture of somebody who's doing all the muscle work, the gym work, believing he's getting healthy. I can guarantee as he gets older, all that fused fascia will be complicated, start to create all kinds of issues. So society is telling us build muscle, build muscle, build muscle, yet for athletes as they get older, it becomes the hard, tight, stiff, dried out bodies, and they don't know how they got there. They think they're doing the right thing. An interesting note in my world of experience with yoga and fitness, in all the thousands of yoga classes I've taught and the hundreds of yoga classes I've attended, not to mention all the yoga retreats I've been on, not once did we have to have an ambulance, a doctor, or medical team ready on site. In almost every sporting event, there's an ambulance parked right next to the stadium, and a doctor and a whole medical team on staff ready to pick up the wounded and the decaying bodies. So sport is combat. Fitness is combat. Athletes are warriors. They go out to combat, whether that's a physical sport like football, lacrosse, or rugby, or something not as violent like tennis or racquetball. You're still a warrior at war. And so your body is creating a war state when you're an athlete. Where the opposite, when I did all those yoga classes, we're not at war. We're in a room full of peaceful people. We're not trying to knock each other down or take each other out or hurt each other. It's a whole different experience, so we're not taking on the traumas of combat. So athletes go into combat and their bodies suffer the consequences. And you know what? Those injuries don't go away. They stay with you forever. Now here's an example from my own personal experience. So in high school playing football and basketball, I started having knee problems. My knee was blown out. Went to the medical doctors. They told me strengthen my knee, weight training, swimming, cycling, hiking, strengthen my knee. Yet I learned years later it had nothing to do with the weakness in my knee. My leg was rotated. So the fascia from an old ankle injury was twisting my knee. And my whole leg was out of alignment. And I was told to build muscle around the knee, yet the whole issue was my fascia was too tight from my ankle, causing my knee to twist. So most people are misdiagnosed and are mistreated because they're told to strengthen an injury and not correct it. So in my case, I had to do a lot of self-correction with body work and yoga therapy to get my leg rebalanced. But most athletes don't do that, so they carry the trauma with them. And here's another example of what happens to the body. So imagine this is your body as an athlete. Your whole life story is stuck in your body. Your body's a sponge. It doesn't forget. All those injuries never went away. So for example, you had a high ankle sprain playing soccer when you were 10. It's still there. You had a blown out knee in playing football. You had a concussion playing rugby. You pulled your hamstring playing tennis. You had a pinched nerve in your neck playing basketball. You landed on your hip playing basketball. You got elbowed in the face playing lacrosse. You got spiked in the face playing volleyball. You got a concussion. Oh, another concussion. Oh, a blown out ankle. Shin splints running track. Guess what? All those injuries are still there. And most people never correct them. That's why when they get older, former athletes are in horrible shape because all that is still there. What we tend to do is put ice over things. We put cold over things. We put some pain medication. And then we cover it up with muscle and go, oh, I'm better. Well, you're not better. All the trauma is stored in your fascia. And this is why athletes are aging poorly, because nothing has gone away. It's still there because we don't teach athletes to get well. We just cover everything up with muscle and treatments. And I guarantee you, all those injuries are still there, and it doesn't matter how old or how far back they are. They're still in your body, causing all kinds of havoc. Here's the picture of a skier who fell down a slope and tumbled. The impact trauma from the hip and back down the leg into the ankle still remains. It's like a paintball splatter that splatters out. So 10, 20, 30, 40 years later, the body is still holding on to that trauma because the fascia holds on to those traumatic memories, and most people don't know how to get it out. So as an athlete ages, they're going to hold on to all these patterns in their body. Traumatic fascia experiences add up. For example, let's take a high school athlete, for example, and they're playing high school basketball, and they have a high ankle sprain. They're out for a couple games, and then they put ice on it, heat on it, walk it off, and then they start playing. Well, their sophomore year, they start having knee problems. And tender knee, painful knee, it's hard to run, it's hard to jump. And then their junior year, start having hip problems and painful hips, and they're out a few more games. And their senior year, they start having back spasms. They're out again. So what's happening is all the fascia is leading to other things. That's why you see so many athletes who are injury prone, because one injury leads to an imbalance that leads to another imbalance. Their whole body is tipping and twisting in all kinds of different directions, and they don't even know what's happening. So all that trauma gets stored in your body. I can tell you stories of all the hits I took in football when I was 16 years old. I would say, wow, that hurt. I'm probably going to feel that when I'm 40. And unfortunately, it showed up much quicker, more like in my 20s. Right out of high school, I felt crippled. So that trauma doesn't go away. It's stored in your body. And athletes aren't really a great model for aging at all. I can recall a famous golfer who's had, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 6 back surgeries and 4 knee surgeries. And I can recall a famous celebrity who would put out exercise videos every year in the 80s about aerobics and all kinds of fitness training. And I think she's had 2 knee replacements, 2 hip replacements, and all kinds of other health issues. So modeling by athletes isn't very good. Most of them are crippled and dilapidated as they get older, and their bodies have taken on the trauma of sports and sports training. So if we just looked at simple data, it would shock no one. For example, the people who live the longest aren't necessarily fit, aren't athletic at all, which is crazy. So, for example, the actual life expectancy of a normal American is about 78 years old. A professional boxer has a life expectancy of 67 years old. A former professional baseball player has a life expectancy of 66 years old. And the life expectancy of a former professional football player in America is 59 and a half years old. If you're a lineman, it's 55 years old. So you can see how the body has taken on all this shock and all this absorption of all this trauma, and the fascia is holding on to it. And athletes aren't aging well at all, but no one's willing to say it. So here's the most interesting and sad part. We take our most beloved and cherished people in our life, our children, we go out there and teach them to be warriors. We put their pads on, their helmets on, give them a number, a jersey, give them a trophy at the end of the year, and then tell them to go knock somebody down, go hurt somebody, go stomp on somebody, go defeat somebody and conquer somebody. And this is what we do to our children. We put them in warrior gear and make them warriors so they can go hurt somebody. It isn't just football. Even soccer is violent. You have headbutts and you have people destroying your shins and stepping on your feet and high ankle sprains. And you know what happens when you hit your head with a ball? It's like running full speed into a garage door with your head. The high instances of neck and head trauma in underage soccer, high school soccer, college soccer, because you're using your head as a weapon. And those impacts don't go away. Your fascia and other areas of the body are absorbing that. The interesting thing is, if parents knew that by suiting their young children up for combat when they're younger, they might be shortening their lifespan by 10, 15, 20 years, would they still do it? By turning them into a little athlete to conquer and hurt their bodies, would they still do it? That's the interesting part. I remember watching a special recently on, there used to be a TV show in the 80s called American Gladiators, where a lot of muscled men and women would do combat exercises against the common Joe in the street. Well, as they interviewed these aging athletes, none of them are doing very well. They've all got multiple health issues and body issues because all the fascia in their body is dried out and hardened and stiffened, and all that training and all that abuse of their bodies, it ends up still there. So I know there's an anomaly where you see an 80-year-old running a marathon, and that's great. Yet when I get that 80-year-old on my massage table, I can find so many health issues, back problems, hip issues, knee issues, feet issues, because the fascia is dried out and hard. So don't be deceived what your eyes tell you, because the massage table isn't lying, and the body never lies. Yes, the media lies, politicians lie, and the mind lies, but the body never lies. Everybody's going to have trauma when they're experiencing life as an athlete. Just because you can climb a mountain or run a marathon doesn't mean your body's healthy. So a couple of things to consider. So now what do we do about this? Now that we know this, what do we do? Well, there's a couple options. We can not do any sports when you're younger. Don't suit your kids up for football, basketball, baseball, tennis, and just do yoga. have all schools do yoga and PE 5 days a week. I guarantee you, we wouldn't have all the health issues as we got older. We wouldn't have the back surgeries and the knee surgeries and knee replacements and hip replacements and all the trauma associated with abusing our bodies. But that's probably not going to happen, so the best thing to do is teach people how to take care of themselves. You have to make your fascia important. So I would recommend more athletes to stretch more. More stretching, less weight training. Because a flexible body bends and doesn't break. So employ yoga teachers in high school and college athletics, in grade school, so people know what good stretches are. Massage therapy, body work, using somebody with their hands to stretch the fascia body work. Stop putting muscle on top of injuries. So there are ways to address this. We just have to change our whole perception of society. A lot of this comes down to our perception of anatomy. I've created a system called New Anatomy. Most anatomy is based on old anatomy, which is hundreds of years old. It believes and teaches us to harden everything. I don't believe that to be true. While we do need muscle, we don't need as much muscle as people think we need. We need more flexibility, especially as people get older. So it's a shift in perception of our own anatomy. Interesting how that works. So make your fascia important. Stretch more yoga, and even athletes can recover their body if you do enough of the right things. So the secret is for younger athletes to learn how to repair their body better, or not do all the warrior sports and don't become a warrior. And as you get older, you can repair your body. You don't have to go through the hell of feeling tired and achy as you get older, but you have to do enough of the right things. Thank you for joining me for this leading edge video. I hope you enjoyed it. There's more leading edge videos to come. If you'd like to learn more about me, please visit my website at johnburris.com, and please subscribe to my channel for more videos in the future. Thank you.